your guide. Well, there's a lot of truth to that. So, you know, believe me, if we kick a call on a ball field or something like that, we're the first ones to know about it. And then everybody else kind of follows suit. Be honest with you, treat the game with respect. Treat yourself like an athlete. So there's a lot of ball games out there. Uh, Eat right, do all the good sort of things. Be ready to go when they throw the first pitch. Um, at the end of the game, um, leave the ballpark with your partner if you have a partner. Um, we used to say back in the day that leave through the team with the team that wins. Well, that might be the team that has given you the most problems. Nothing wrong with going off the other side. If both teams have been giving you grief, no sense in saying you have to go off either one. You can go out the center field parking lot. All right, find a way, but go out the path of least resistance. Um, we've all been there on nights, so sometimes center field fence looks pretty good. Um, the When you do leave the ballpark, um, when you get to your car, at least you know take a shirt off before you go anywhere. Um, you know, we all have taken our job and taken their uniform and gone somewhere else. Uh, Believe me, if you go to a ballpark or and you leave your shirt on, you go to that local gas station. The first thing they see is an umpire shirt. Okay, or if you're a police officer, if I realize you can't get out of your uniform entirely, but at least get the shirt off. That way you're not, you know, going down the road and stuff like that. So um, the uh, the other thing is, um, do your best to leave it at the ballpark. Um, as far as try not to take your problems home, just leave it at the ballpark. We'll get into handling players and coaches and then some paperwork afterwards. There's always some paperwork that has to be done, but as far as the attitude and all that good sort of stuff, getting hyped up at a ball game, just leave it at the ballpark. Find a stop sign or something like that on your way home and put it all on that stop sign or put it all on a red light or find something to take a breather so you're not taking it home and taking it out on the family because this can be a stressful job if you let it. Uh, if you ever want to blow off steam, find someone to talk to. Um, if you're thinking about quitting, we're not going to try to talk you out of it, but on the same token, that's always a big decision. So um, instead of, going through it by yourself, we've all been there. Um, by all means, pick up the phone, you know, uh, call somebody else, call me or call anybody that'll listen to you. But don't keep it all on your shoulders. All right. Um, Social media. Uh, it's getting to the point where, excuse me, you can't hardly say anything anymore without offending somebody. I gotta get a drink of water here. Hang on just a second.
That
So
didn't look like water, Jamie.
yeah, well, it was Mountain Dew. So uh, the um, do yourself a favor. Um, Try to stay off the social media about anything about games, about partners, about assigners, about the league you work for. It's just going to cause you trouble. Um, People have been fired up from their jobs from saying stuff from on social media that shouldn't be said. Uh, um, we had an umpire earlier this year say something during a ball game. Frankly, the what he said wasn't all that bad, but on the same token, the fact that he said it, and next thing you know, it was caught on camera because of all those little spy cameras that they have on backstops now, and the coach sent it to director of umpires and said, is this guy speaking for you? And next thing you know, is he a representative of what the rest of the world thinks and all that good sort of stuff? Believe me, with cell phones and cameras and these little spy cams that they have watching ball games and stuff like that, just be careful about what is said. You know, if you can't say it in front of your mother, you probably shouldn't be saying it. All right. I realize that's probably a little old fashioned, but on the same token, it still holds a lot of weight. Just be very careful about what you put on social media, all that good sort of stuff. And it can be as innocent as anything, but someone's going to take offense at it. You know, there was a comment. One of the umpires made a comment the other day. Boy, what a great game last night. Well, obviously someone lost that game, so it pissed off 50% of the people. So even though it was clearly innocent, and just stay off of it. Okay. Don't announce schedules. Don't announce who you're working with. You know, just be proud of the game that you're doing. Nobody else really needs to know that you're working somewhere down the road or the game that you're working tonight. Just be careful. I can't emphasize that enough with social media. Any questions that we have on professionalism before we jump into players and coaches? Matt, have you seen anything on the chat box? I'll take that as
nothing on the chat.
All right, everybody's just been listening. Great, appreciate it. Handling players and coaches. There are many ways to handle player and coaches. The easiest way is not to get in trouble. But when time comes, we need to take care of business. All that stuff that we've done through with Safe Sport and all that good sort of stuff about people bullying people and all that good sort of stuff is no place for it on the ball field. We're just there to play softball. Let all the egos and all other good sort of stuff just get that out of the ball game and just play games. Just play the softball game. All right. If you're out there by yourself, good luck. But on the same token, have some ground rules as far as when you're working by yourself. If there's a play going on, you're only going to need to talk to one person at a time. If it's a first baseman after a play at first or something like that, you'll listen to the first baseman, but the pitcher doesn't need to come in and start his own conversation. The second baseman, you don't need to be crowded by anybody. All right. Back them off. I'll talk to one person at a time. When the coach finally gets out there, that's the guy you'll talk to. All right. Once he gets out there, you're done talking to everybody else. All right. But keep the conversations one-on-one. There's no way that you're going to be able to keep everybody happy when you try to talk to a group. Talk to one-on-one. And then once you've explained it to the coach, or once you've explained it to that particular person, all the other people can get the information from that guy. Don't answer a third, fourth question from a third or fourth party. Okay. That being said, if you're working with a partner, it's the partner's responsibility to keep everybody else at bay while your partner is handling things one-on-one. Okay. So again, if the coach is out there talking to the player, talking to your partner, and the first baseman wants to come in and get into the conversation, step between them, veer him off, walk him away type thing, and then says, let your coach handle it. Keep everything one-on-one. After we've done, have a good pregame, especially if you're working by yourself. Have a good pregame. Kind of set the tones. If you want to bring up the fact that if we have a situation on the field that you only talk to a player or coach, I don't have a problem with that. Now, that kind of precludes the fact that you think there's going to be a problem tonight, but on the same token, just so you're on the same page, have a pregame. I realize we get into situations where we've got league play and all that good sort of stuff, and the coach is standing over in the dugout looking for his 8th and 9th and 10th players because they're running late, and they got to get Joey in the lineup and all that good sort of stuff. But on the same token, have a pregame. If it's the first game of a doubleheader, by all means, have a pregame. Yeah, it gets a little lengthy at times and a little late in the season during league play. I get it. But on the same token, if you've had a problem in the first game and they're playing a doubleheader, by all means, have a pregame the second game. Set the tone for the second game. If the fit hits the shan, there's no reason you can't have a manager's meeting in the 3rd inning. Have a come to Jesus meeting. And say, hey, we're done with all this. We need to get back to playing softball. So try to do your best, nip it in the bud. If someone's got something to say, get them to get them to calm down as much as possible. Tell them, hey, I'll listen to you. But if all we're going to do is whine, we need to get back to playing softball. But if it reaches to a point where you've reached the boiling point and you need to give a warning, give the warning. Use the word, that's your warning. Okay? And when you give a warning, either you're the home plate umpire, you need to pull out a lineup card on the back of the lineup card, or whatever you want to do, whatever your process is, you need to write it down. I warned number 25 in the 4th inning, bottom of the 4th, and then move on. If you're the base umpire and you've given a warning, by all means, go tell the home plate umpire, because he's probably got the only thing to write it down with. I just warned 25 in the bottom of the 4th. Can you write that down for me? That way, you have some sort of record to go back to that we gave 25 a warning. Now, a couple innings later, 25 pops off again, and it's time to go home. We can look on the fact to say, was that 25 or was that 24 we gave the warning to? Now, some of those things that we give warnings to are team warnings, such as arguing balls and strikes. Okay. I've heard people use the profanity thing as a team warning. I don't have a problem with that. Okay. But on the same token, whatever we have happen, use the word warning and then write it down. Okay. That way we've got some sort of record of it. Now, if we have two teams that have a history, you're not going to change the history. Let's say they've played 14 times and they're both a bunch of competitive individuals. Okay. You're not going to be able to change the history, but you can make history and make it a good game going forward. If you've got two problem childs, and inevitably, because of the way the field is set up, as far as people going off the field and on the field, they're going to pass each other. If you've got competitive players between two teams, you need to stay between them. And all you need is just a presence a lot of times. If Joey's having a bad night and he's always butting heads with somebody on the other team, as they're walking through the lineup or whatever, as they're going from one field to the other, offense to defense, just stay in the middle of the field, stay between the bench and them or whatever. But you don't have to be a policeman in the fact, but all you need is just a presence. All right. That way you can nip anything in the bud. If it goes forward. Now, there are such a thing as automatic ejections. It happens. Don't tolerate it. Automatic ejections are things like once you've given a warning for arguing balls and strikes, anybody else on that team wants to argue balls and strikes, they get an ejection. Okay. Someone disposes of a object that doesn't belong where it happens. Okay. Someone throws a hat, someone throws a glove, someone throws a ball, someone throws a bat. Those are automatically ejections. Someone spikes a glove, someone spikes a bat. Those things don't belong on the field. They belong in hands, they belong on a hat. The hat belongs on a head, and so on and so forth. Those are automatic ejections. I work a number of different sports, and I work with a handful of people, and they're for the most part, they're saying if the phrase starts with a U, it better end with "are a nice guy." All right. If they're calling you a so and so from across the field, it's time for them to go. If they're yelling at you across the field, that's time for them to go or give a warning, but it needs to be addressed. You just can't let it go. Some other automatics. They question your integrity. They question your heritage. If you ever if someone ever bumps you, that person is gone. You may end up forfeiting a ball game. If somebody threatens you, these are all automatic. They got to go. There's no place for that in our ball game, and we can't allow it. Now, I don't mean to go out and give you a carte blanche thing on when to start dumping people and all that good sort of stuff, but we need to take care of business. And sometimes the Indians are running the reservation. So we just need to draw the line. We need to tell them where the line is, warn them. And then if it continues and they don't heed the warning, well, that's on them. Once the situation happens and someone does get ejected, what happens? They need to leave the ball field. They need to leave the ballpark out of sight and out of sound. Okay. Now, if they're progressing to the fact that they're leaving and they're going through the process of gathering their stuff and they're getting ready to go, that's fine. We don't have to wait for them to leave the ballpark, the facility, before we can start playing again. If they're making the progress of leaving, first thing we have to do is we have to get a coach. Okay. And we have to get a substitute, a replacement for that particular person. If they don't find a replacement for that particular person, then we have other rules to cover that. We have shorthanded player rule. We have, in league play, we have automatic outs. We have things to shorten the game. We have all our good sort of stuff. But we need a conversation with the coach. We need to find out who that guy was. We need a replacement for him. Once you get all that good sort of stuff, he better be working his way towards being out of sight and out of sound. If he doesn't leave or out of sight and out of sound, and he's not making a motion like he's going to be doing this anytime soon, this falls on the coach. All right. Now, I know the rule book says we have a minute to get rid of him. All right. Don't pull out a stopwatch. Don't do all any good sort of stuff. But the responsibility for him to leave belongs to the head coach. All right. Don't take it on yourself that he's got to go. Put it on the head coach. Now, if the head coach don't want to take care of it, now we lose the head coach. Okay. And someone else becomes the coach, and now it's their responsibility. Okay. But on the same token, the sooner we get back to playing softball, the better it'll be. Now, once we've done all that, we've got some paperwork to take care of. Or we have some notifications that we need to take care of afterwards. We need to call the assigner. We need to call the scheduler. We need to call the league director or something to that effect. Leave them a message on their machine or send them an email or something. So when they come in the office the next day, that's the very first thing they see. Okay. Don't wait till noon the next day, because what happens if you throw somebody out of a ball game, chances are at 8:00, they're trying to call the office to find out what's going on. Okay. You want to get ahead of it. You want to give your opinion first, or at least give them the idea of what happened. Send them an email, says, hey, I need to talk to you, or here's what's happened, and all that good sort of stuff. A lot of times there's paperwork that needs to be done at the ball field. If not, if you're talking like a high school game or something to that effect, there are pages on the Michigan High School Athletic Association. If you work at NC2A, there's player incident reports. If you need any of that stuff, basically I can get you a copy of that if you need it. But basically cover the 5 W's: the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why. I'm not a big fan of sugarcoating things as far as, well, the player by his actions tonight showed that he didn't want to continue. Horseshit. Pardon my French. But if he calls you an asshole, tell the assigner that he called you an asshole. Just tell it like it is. I mean, it is what it is. Don't make anything up. Don't embellish it. Just tell it like it is. Let them deal with it. Don't make demands of the person that you're reporting things to. I think you ought to be gone for the rest of the year. No, that's not your call. He may end up be gone for the rest of the year. That may happen, but on the same token, that's not your call. You just simply give them all the information, give them all the facts, and let them determine what's got to happen from there. Okay. And do everybody else a favor. Take care of business in that particular aspect. Just because you don't want to do the paperwork or something to that effect, tell the guy he can play again or whatever. If he deserves an ejection, he deserved an ejection. And you need to take the 5 or 10 minutes it takes to fill out the paperwork to make sure that he sits out for the next guy. All right. And then once you do that, leave it up to the league director or the assigner or whatever to let them notify them that they've got to sit the next game, or if you dump somebody in the first game, at the end up in the second game. But we have procedures that we have to take care of. So do yourself a favor, do everybody else a favor, and go through the procedure and take care of business. What works for you may not work for me. What works for me may not work for you. It's a fine line as far as a niche, as far as what you can say. But for the most part, listen to what they've got to say. If they end up crossing a line, give them a warning, If they don't heed the warning, it's time for someone to go, and we need to get a replacement. But on the same token, don't take it personally. They're yelling at a figure. They're yelling at the uniform. They're, unless they put the word "you" on it, then they are taking it personally. And don't take things personally. Someone wants to walk by you and under their breath, say something. That's fine. But if they yell something at you across the field and it's personal, I'm sorry. It's time for them to go. I don't mean for you to go out there and looking for people to go, but on the same token, we need to take care of business. And when it's time for someone to go, that's the time for it to go. Again, if we get into a situation where you need to chat about something, by all means, pick up a phone, send me an email, send me a text or whatever. We've all been through this once or twice. It never makes it easy, but on the same token, if you get home and you find yourself thinking, probably should have warned that person, or I probably should have ejected that person, then by all means, you probably should have. But we all have to come up with what our line in the sand is, if you will, and how much you'll take. Believe me, as the years go by and things become more recognizable, if you will, sometimes that fuse gets shorter. Sometimes it gets longer. It's the old adage sometimes that good umpires don't throw ball players out. Well, I kind of go the other way. If you're letting too much go, there needs to be an adjustment somewhere down the road as well, because your level of tolerance is definitely probably going to be different than mine. And that's not either good nor is it bad. But all they need to know is we need to be consistent across the board on what is and what's not tolerable.
Jamie, I've got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, when you're actually giving the ejection, is it better for you to just calmly talk to the coach or the player and not make a spectacle of yourself or the situation? Just try to talk in a regular voice versus, throwing your hand up, yelling across the field, get the heck out of here, however you want to do it. What's a more effective way of handling the actual ejection itself?
Okay. That's a good question. There are lots of different ways to do. If you can use a third party, let's say the shortstop's been giving you grief all night. You may find a familiar face on a ball field or talk to the coach and say, hey, that shortstop's a hell of a player, but he's not going to do you any good if he's not going to make it through the night. Instead of going directly at the shortstop or something to that effect, use a third party. Sometimes you can, talk to the coach and instead of the old heave ho, so you can call the coach out there and said, Coach, I need a new shortstop. Plain and simple. I need a sub. I need a sub for the shortstop. So, Ryan, what can I do you for?
Is it situational on how you approach each individual? Everything's situational. There's sometimes we're turning around and this time go up. Or this time we have a moment to go, okay, process, boom. Sometimes it's a split decision on what to do. Is it situational or is there, I understand where Matt's coming from, because I try to do that as calmly as cool as possible, but it's situational. there's some guys that, that I've seen, I don't know, some guys come out of you very aggressively, or what they're saying, and how do you deal with that? I mean, that players are super unruly. You don't have time to talk to them.
Yep, and there are some situations where um, you can handle things with tact, and there are some times when you can't handle it with tact. Um, I wish I could give you a, for instance, or whatever, but everybody has their own tolerance level. Um, every ball game is different. Like I say, there's history sometimes involved with games that you had nothing to do with, or um, you're unaware of. But sometimes things reach a boiling point quicker in some games than it does in other games. Sometimes it doesn't reach it there at all. But there are different ways to handle things. Some people handle it with humor. A Dar Peterson or something like that might be able to say something clever. Sometimes that can take the edge off, if you will. But on the same token, there are times when that doesn't work. So there's not a hard, fast line on what works and what doesn't. You just got to find your own niche. Did I answer your question? Okay.
I told him his audio was really bad, so
Yeah, well, yeah, we kind of got the gist of it.
yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, so the anybody else have anything that they I see a couple of chats down there. You got anything else there, Matt? Or
No, some of them were just comments. Jason had a comment: by letting it go, you make it more difficult for the next crew to come in and officiate the game with them. So, which is a key point too.
Yep.
You want to make sure that what you did in your game isn't carrying over to the next game.
Yeah, and sometimes
Different
the different tolerance levels is a problematic in the fact that sometimes people let other players walk all over them, and then and then when a stronger umpire gets out there, they won't take nearly as much. Well, then that second umpire is the bad guy. Well, the second umpire possibly maybe if the first umpire would have corrected things a little bit better, we wouldn't have got to the second part. But what else you got there, Matt? Anything?
Oh, that was pretty much it.
Hey, Jamie,
Yeah.
I got one.
Go ahead.
And it's not, it was during a travel team last year, fast pitch, and it wasn't even verbal, but the coach from this one team, his idea of disagreeing with you was just giving you the stare down. He would stare at you every call you made. If he would go visit his pitcher, he wouldn't even look at the ground. He would look at you from the minute he left the dugout to the pitcher's mound, and back and forth on every call. Finally, I just stopped looking at him. I started counting the holes in the fence and stuff like that. I mean, so
And did that work?
it did work because it did. If I were to continue to stare at him, it was giving him more fuel to continue the fire.
Well, and on the
But
same
since I
token,
wasn't paying attention to him, he finally quit. He finally found out, well, I can't intimidate this guy like I did the other guy. And I mean, coaches just have different tactics of trying to get underneath your skin. And that was like the first time that I had ever seen that.
Yep. And in that particular aspect, let's say you end up, what's your argument when you call and talk to your supervisor in that particular aspect? Well, he was, what'd you throw him out for? He was staring at me. Well,
Right.
that's not really a good reason. I mean,
Right.
okay. So, but yeah, there are plenty of ways to different handle things. That was your way that night. So, if it worked, by all means, um, you know, I think DeLee just put something down there, I can either scratch my nose with my index finger or I can scratch it with my, another finger or whatever, but there are many ways to different handle things. So, whatever works for you. We can get into stories and go right and left, but there are some humorous things out there. Um, we've all been through it sometimes. Sometimes things are funnier than others, but yeah, if you've got a different anecdote, by all means, share it with us. Looks like we've got a couple of things in the chat. It says, treat everyone equal. I would agree with that. Treat them, the old golden rule stuff, treat them with the way that you would want to be treated. Someone else mentioned the Tisdale rule. Well, okay. Well, I'll go over that a little bit. We had a situation a number of years ago. An umpire by the name of Mark Tisdale. He kind of took things to heart when Mr. Conlon was running the program back in the day, and he would always put it on the next guy up, if you will. Well, so anyway, we had a batter base runner take his bat. Didn't particularly like a call, and he ended up popping the ball up to the infield. And as the batter base runner was running down the first base, he knew that the home plate umpire was trailing the runner. Well, next thing you know, he ended up kind of not nonchalantly throwing the bat backwards, knowing that the plate umpire was coming up behind him. And anyway, he hit him in the shins. Now, it wasn't intentional in the fact that, he threw it at him, but, obviously he knew what the intent was. So anyway, that guy got dumped. And when the coach, who ends up being the next batter, came up, when Matt says, you're the coach of this team, right? He goes, yep. He says, are you going to handle this? And he says, no. He says, he was your problem. And he says, well, you mean to tell me you're not going to handle it? And the guy says, no. Well, next thing you know, according to the way things wanted to be handled back then, that coach got ejected. So now we got two guys gone. Well, Mark took it unto himself that the next batter was going to be the new coach. And things went on from there. I think we ended up losing 6 people before we finally ran out of players. But it was next man up in that situation. But that's the old Mark Tisdale story. So I'll look in the chat to see what else there is.
Yeah, Mark did that more than once too.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah, I was there another night when he threw out 4 or 5.
Yeah, well, Mark had a quick finger sometimes, and believe me, sometimes we used to lie, park a bus out there and see how many we could load it with. But sometimes that's what you got to do. But on the same token, it shouldn't be an everyday occurrence, if you know what I mean. Like I say, some people have a way to handle things or whatever. I'll tell the story of the Paul Piernack, a good umpire from the Flint area, was working the men's super, and he's working with a guy by the name of from Texas. They called him the Cowboy. This is working the men's super. For those people who have worked at that level, just about anything goes. But here it is. It's the top of the fifth. One team's getting beat by 20 runs. That was before the the mercy rules and all that stuff took effect and all that good sort of stuff. But anyway, the team that's at bat, top of the seventh, the very first batter hits a ball to the infield, and he beats it out. He's a step by the bag when the umpire calls him out. Here comes the offensive coach. And he wants to talk to Cowboy working first base. And he says, why'd you call that guy out? And Cowboy says, I got 3 reasons I called him out. He says, 1, he says, it's the top of the 7th and you're down by 20 runs. 2, it's a 1:45 in the morning. And 3, this is the men's super. The ball don't belong on the infield. And the guy says, that's 3 good questions, 3 good answers, Blue. And he turned around and walked away. But that was just his way of handling it. It worked. But on the same token, it's not going to work for everybody. So believe me, we can go on and about stories and all that good sort of stuff. But all I'm trying to emphasize here, there are many ways to get around to it. If we can keep them in the ball game, that's fine. But we can't allow them to trash the ball game just because you want to keep them in the ball game. Anything else there, Mr.
No, I don't see anything else. Say,
Okay.
you got all the other comments.
Okay.
Hey, Jamie, I got a question, Jamie.
Yeah, go ahead.
At what point when you're tossing people, would you finally say this is a forfeit? We've had enough. Can you do that?
Well, we have different rules for different leagues and stuff like that. Obviously, if you're looking for USA softball or high school or something to that effect, those don't, if you have an ejection and you don't have a substitute, then you don't use the shorthanded player rule in USA softball or high school or NC2A. If they can't fill that spot with a substitute, then the ball game's over. League play is a little different. We have, depending on where you're playing, you can use the shorthanded player rule for an ejection. So it depends on how many players we get down to. That was kind of Mark Tisdale's idea. As far as the number of people, I think City of Lansing allows you to play with 6. Delta Township allows you to play with 6, and East Lansing, I think, is 8. But somewhere, if we get down to the situation where we don't have enough players, then obviously the game's over. If at any time you get accosted on the ball field, the game's over. We'll worry about the things afterwards. But on the same token, if you're going to do something to that effect, make sure you do it as a team. I worked with an umpire who will remain nameless, just forfeited the ball game from the bases. Didn't know anything was going on. I'm kind of sitting up there and I got dumbfounded. Why did you forfeit the ball game? Well, he had thrown out somebody and he thought it was getting worse from there. I said, well, okay, but we need some sort of explanation. We just can't forfeit the ball game. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that makes sense. It just seems like I heard at one point, if you tossed a guy and he didn't leave in the minute that you give him to leave, that you could say, if you don't leave, this game will be a forfeit. That's not a.
Well, it's a rule. I mean, it's covered under the rule, but the last thing I want you to do is pull out a stopwatch and forfeit the ball game at 101, if you know what I mean. So
Right.
If he's making progress to get out of there, give him that option. Now, if he ends up walking over there and standing in the the dim light, if you will, and try to watch the rest of the game, well, he's lost his opportunity, but he's got to leave out of sight and out of sound. If we can get back to playing ball, that's kind of what we're there for. If if it's a situation where it's the team that's ahead that's doing this, and you think it's a delay tactic, stop the clock. A lot of those games we have, but if it's a losing team, let the clock run. You know what I mean? So, but if he's making progress to leave, let him leave. So there are some umpires out there that won't have, they won't take another pitch until he's gone. Well, don't let one guy ruin the whole night for everybody. Everybody else came out to play. Let's try to play as much as possible. Now, if he wants to, continue stirring the fire, that's another story. That's a different road we have to go down. So,
Thank you.
okay.
Yep, very good, man.
Anybody else want to throw in a question or whatever? You can open up your mic and do that now. Other than that, do we have any other questions or anything you want to get off your chest or anything that you want to cover? Just let me know. Okay, then.
So Jamie, I will add a comment. I just, from a state of Michigan staff standpoint, I wish more districts did what Laura is doing with you guys on the Zoom call. You guys are in an awesome situation where, I mean, even if you weren't talking about rules, just getting together and keeping up the camaraderie. So the fact that there's some requirements here, I mean, that's great. But when Laura brought this together a few years ago, kudos to her for doing that, and thank you for each being here. We've got some assignments coming out. Hopefully we'll have a normal year this year. We've got lots of lots of qualifiers going on. So we are certainly going to need everyone's help. For those of you that do high school level ball, if you would please put down May 8th and 9th on your calendar. That is the 10U and 12U national qualifier down in Sturgis. Don Newstead is running that tournament and is going to need all the help that he can get. So if you are available one or both of those days, shoot me an email and I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Just so you all know that this Zoom thing really came about from Matt and Jamie and Joe. Gary and I are kind of dinosauring in, because we don't really get this, but we're going along. So, but kudos to those guys.
And it's not just the Zoom thing. It's even having the district requirements to attend so many sessions in order to get so many points. I mean, that in itself, I wish more districts would do that.
I agree. I think that because our whole district has quite a large quantity of really good umpires, I think that we're all used to that system, taking it that step up. Other districts maybe they'll catch on. That would be cool.
So Laura, I know all the faces that are on here. There's this Braden Roberts. Is that one of your new umpires?
Yeah, he shaved his head last night. Got his braces off. Yeah, the doggone. The kids do their Zoom, and that must have been the only computer, was it, Rye? Are you there, Rye? Yeah, that's what I thought. So I do appreciate all you guys jumping on here and learning from this system. And don't forget, our district clinic is coming up. And there are numerous state clinics that you've all got links to so that you can join in on those. And also make sure you notice that our district clinic is the same day as a state clinic session, but their times will be separated.
Did anyone have any questions about the format of these state clinics for this year? I know I got in late, so I don't know if there was questions before.
We have
Hey,
to,
Ross,
Yeah.
what were those dates again?
Yeah, right.
May 5th and 8th and 9th, wasn't it?
Oh, just a second.
Dates for what, Jason? The tournament?
Yeah.
Seventh
so-
date.
Oh, no, for the clinic?
No, for the tournament that you're talking about.
Oh, I'm sorry, May 8th and 9th.
Okay.
And again, that'll be in Sturgis. I mean, there's other things going on that weekend, but that's something new we're trying, and we know that high school may be playing that weekend. So if you are so inclined to run down to Sturgis and help up with that. I don't know about housing at this point. Certainly, we wouldn't expect you to drive back and forth each day. So just let me know your availability and I'll work with that.
Hey, Ross, on the state clinics, do we have to attend all 4 sessions?
It is recommended that you attend all 4. You do not need to attend all 4 live sessions. They will be recorded and at the USA Softball of Michigan website. So at your leisure or in multiple settings, what would that be? Seatings. You can go out and take a look. So it is required that if you are going to want to work any national or at-large state assignments that you get in all of them. If you are working any national qualifiers or state tournaments as a local or guest local, it is recommended that you attend all of those. But again, we can work with what we have. If you have issues getting to that requirement, just let me know and we'll see what we can work out.
Okay, thank you.
What's the date again of that state clinic?
There's actually 4
Wow.
dates.
You got an email about it, Todd.
Yeah, I knew I didn't have it written down on my calendar and I gotta try to find it, but yeah, I'll look it up. Thanks.
So it's February, just a minute, I'm just about there. February 21st and 22nd, I believe. The 21st is Brian is doing some introductions information and Dave is running interference. On the 22nd, I'm doing obstruction. Bob is doing a basic umpiring and kind of like what Jamie just did. So it's not for new umpires, it's just an all around. Then on March 7th, I'm excited that on the 7th, I'm going to run a session. I call it Where Have We Been, but it's almost like the Mount Rushmore of Michigan softball. It's going to be a panel discussion with Bill Humphrey, Jerry Hansen, Gary Evans, Brian Smith. Some of you may know Ron Welch. I'm trying to get Paul Pjornak involved in that. Jim Wolfert, if he would answer his phone for me. So there's going to be some individuals on that panel that I'm really, really excited about the conversation. So that's going to be on the 7th. And then on the 8th, Bob is going to run another, we haven't got a name for it yet, but it's going to be a generic umpiring class for that. And then there's 2 dates in April that are going to be on the field. Really, that's still up in the air at this point based on what's going on with the COVID situation. But that is perhaps April 17th in Holland or April 18th in Mount Pleasant.
Thank you.
Jamie, we do have one more question in the chat.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
Alex had a question about swearing and all that good sort of stuff. He talked about someone using the F-bomb or whatever. We all have different tolerance levels for that particular thing, but on the same token, if it's loud enough where multiple people can hear it, it needs to be addressed. And I don't care how you want to address it. You just need to address it. If someone brings the F-bomb and there are kids around the ballpark, when that kid looks up and goes, "Oh, what did he just say?" I want that parent to be pointing out to the umpire and saying he's addressing it. Okay. I don't care how you want to address it. Tell them to choose a different language or try not to use that language at a ballpark. We have people around. I don't care how you want to address it, but it needs to be addressed. If it gets to a situation where it's consistent and you want to go to a particular warning, by all means, then go to a warning. And if it happens again, I'm sorry, but we've chatted about this. We just can't have you saying stuff like that on a ball field. You didn't heed the warning. It's time for you to go. I hate to reach that point, but on the same token, we can't have that type of language on a ball field. They're public places. People bring their kids out there for playing on the swings and all that good sort of stuff. And that's not a atmosphere that you want that to continue. Now I realize, there are people, young people out there that they can't finish a sentence without using an F-bomb. Okay. And if we're just talking back and forth, I'm not offended by it. But on the same token, if it gets louder enough where everybody else can hear it, it needs to be addressed. All right. I hope that you have the backing of the people in the office. I think they do, because they need to see this as a recreational facility and they want families to come to the ballpark. So again, hopefully I answered your question, but however you want to handle it, but it needs to be addressed.
Okay, I don't have any other questions. Jamie? We lose Jamie?